Hello, today I wanted to talk a little bit around the myth of the due date, because despite their prevalence in pretty much every conversation you're going to have in your pregnancy, they're not actually the most useful things to focus on when it comes to the end of your pregnancy journey. I would say that at the best they're a little bit unhelpful and misleading, and at the worst they're a complete fallacy. The reason I say this is because due dates are not actually evidence-based. You'd be surprised to know they're actually based on a 17th century calculation coined by a German professor, a man called Nägele. Nägele's rule stated that you add 7 days to the last menstrual period and then add 9 months onto that. Actually, in the beginning, doctors weren't sure if he meant add 7 days to the first day of the period or the last day, but in the end they went with the first day, and we still use this method today. Before this more scientific method was used to calculate due dates, it was generally assumed women would give birth within 10 moon cycles of their last period, which was around 42 weeks. So Nägele shortened this to 40 weeks. And given that 85% of pregnancies go beyond 40 weeks, it does make you wonder if perhaps we've got the gestational age a little bit off. Of course, it is wrong to suggest that due dates aren't a little bit helpful in giving a vague indication of baby's arrival, and of course now with scans we can get a slightly more accurate prediction. But given the amount of emphasis that's put on the due date, I think it's good to put it in a little bit of context, because only 5% of babies are actually born on their due date. And the problem with focusing on that date is it brings stress, mainly from yourself initially, thinking that if you go beyond that date, your baby is now late or overdue, which is language that can, it can bring mild stress and anxiety. That stress then kind of seeps out into family members and friends who are continuously texting you around that date. Is your baby here yet? Gosh, you must be fed up by now. And that can also add to that layer of anxiety of where is my baby? Is my baby late? Should I be giving birth already? And then there's a third layer of stress as well that comes from your caregivers. Every day past that date, you get some suggestions that quickly turn into quite strong recommendations of taking an induction for prolonged pregnancy. Now, induction is a big topic and one that deserves its own chunk of airtime. But what I would say is this: babies can be born perfectly healthily between 37 weeks and 42 weeks, and even healthy outside of those parameters as well. All babies take their own sweet time to ripen, and you might come from a long line of mothers who had a longer gestational age. Induction for prolonged pregnancies can sometimes be life-saving, as long as you have all the information around your choice and you feel like the choice has been fully yours, with all the risks and benefits on both sides being considered. We are starting to understand now what it is that initiates labour, and it seems to appear that it's the baby that says, "I'm ready." So a protein is then released into the baby's lungs, helping expand the air sacs. Cortisol is also released, which then triggers prostaglandin, which helps soften the cervix. And in the final days and weeks of pregnancy, there are antibodies passed from mum to baby to help prepare the baby for life outside the womb. So it's really a beautiful time. So even if you're really fed up and longing for your baby, try and enjoy this time as just bonus time with your partner or with your bump, and delight in this steady maturing that is happening behind the scenes. Tell your friends and do your best yourself to just let go of the date and drop into a place of surrender where nature can just take over, because only your baby knows the day it will be born.